everyone. My name is Savannah, and I'm a Youth MOVE Colorado VISTA, and I will be interviewing Avani Dillinger on this episode of the Recovery Series.
The material and information presented here is provided by lived experience youth and is for general information purposes only. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are of those of the guest only and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of Youth MOVE.
Hi, Avani.
Hi, it's so wonderful to be here.
Yeah, thank you for being on this podcast.
More than happy to.
So we met way back when I was going through my own journey, and you ran this group called Natural Highs at a place I was staying. And could you tell us more about Natural Highs and the rest of your community group?
Yeah, so Natural Highs is a nonprofit. We started about 25 years ago in Boulder, Colorado, and we are now running programs still in Boulder County, a lot of them, and I will tell you more about it. And then also we do some online programming. Most of the things we offer are free, available to anybody, and people can find all the programs we offer on naturalhighs.org. And so the reason I started Natural Highs as a nonprofit is because really now there are so many breakthroughs in neuroscience, understanding mental health and understanding substance use and addiction, so much more than we ever have. And the unfortunate thing is that it takes usually decades for this knowledge to be available. And unfortunately, in this country, it's still a question of privilege. Who has access to this cutting edge information and to these cutting edge approaches? And so that's the reason I started Natural Highs as a nonprofit, to really make all of these breakthroughs available specifically for teens and for parents and for people in the justice system and for people who come from not so privileged backgrounds, because we think that everybody deserves to have this cutting edge information available, because we think that could change lives.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with all the different ways to recover. It's a lot of hard work that people do and a lot of just things that occur naturally in your group that help a lot of other people as well. Since I've attended, it was very helpful to me. Can you also tell us what is different about Natural Highs than other recovery groups?
Yeah, I think we work with some unusual things, right? So, because we've learned over the last 25 years what's actually helping people and what's actually working for people. So, our program is not a treatment program. Our program is a peer mentor training program, because we believe that people, anybody really, but especially people with lived experience, have a lot of wisdom to offer. And so we work with people throughout the whole spectrum. So we work with people who have never done drugs. We have worked with people who have mental health challenges. We work with people who have used substances. We work with people who still are using substances. And we work with people who decided to stay clean and sober. And so we have no judgment on any of it. So we think every human has an interesting experience. So we invite anybody. And what we have learned over the years is that, for example, it's very hard for people to give up unhealthy strategies if there is not a healthy alternative. People call this white knuckling sobriety, where, you just give up a drug or give up a behavior. But then if there's nothing in its place, it's very difficult for people to make this sustainable long term. And so we work with lots of healthy alternatives. So we have learned that, for example, every substance that people are doing is actually just a copy of a neurotransmitter that we naturally have. And we could learn how to support our own happy chemicals, our own healthy neurotransmitters to feel happier. And so we teach people how to do that. And we work with unusual things, like we work with herbs, and then people are like, you work with herbs, you smoke weed. And we're like, no, we don't use cannabis. We do not think that cannabis is a healthy herb because it creates addiction and it creates mental health problems. So the herbs we work with are usually herbs people have never heard about, like passion flower or angelica root or damiana. And all of these herbs, they go in the direction of substances that people use, but they are actually healthy. They're healthy, they're non-addictive, they're safe. And, people can learn that there are actually healthy ways how we can help ourselves feel better. We do not have to go overboard, and we don't have to go into self-destructive patterns. And so these are the things we do, or we do a form of acupuncture called AcuDetox, which is a form of ear acupuncture that was actually developed in the 1970s in the Bronx to get people off heroin. And it was very successful. And now people figured out that the reason it was so successful is because it actually treats the trauma underneath. So at this point, we have given out over 10,000 of these free AcuDetox treatments all over Boulder County. And we're training people all across the state of Colorado to become practitioners because it's a very powerful tool to regulate the nervous system. And people are sometimes shocked how this 5-needle protocol makes them feel, because some people feel like, oh my God, this feels like the drug I used to do. Because again, right, it's like people don't use drugs randomly. There's actually a profound intelligence how and why people use a certain drug. It's people try to change something in their own brain chemistry. And once you understand what you were trying to change, you can learn healthy ways of doing that in a much more sustainable and, healthier way.
Yeah. I remember doing that AcuDetox for the first time only in one ear because I had a fear of needles. And it felt almost like unbalanced, like one side felt better than the other. So I had to get the other one to feel like better and more imbalanced with everything. So
Yeah, and I recommend for everybody to try it. I mean, wherever you are in Colorado, see if you can find it in your community. Colorado is not the only state that allows us to train anybody in a 3-day certification training to learn how to do this 5-point needle protocol. And so we have trained a lot of people. And so my hope is that it's going to be available in lots of communities around Colorado. And people have to try it to believe it, because nobody believes that what 5 acupuncture needles in your ear could do. I know it sounds weird, but it makes people feel really, really balanced. It shifts your nervous system state from the sympathetic mode, from the stress mode, into the parasympathetic mode, which is the state where you can actually relax and restore and feel good. And so, yeah, I recommend to anybody to try to find it, because it's a really wonderful tool. And it's not just for people, to get off substances. It's also very profound for mental health. It's really good for stress. It's really good for anxiety or depression. And it helps people sleep. It helps some people with pain even, and physical issues. So we created a hub, a website hub with all of our locations and times where we give it out for free. It's boulderacudetox.org. And like I said, if you're somewhere else in Colorado, I highly encourage everybody to just see if you find a practitioner in your area to try it.
That's so great. I hope it does go statewide because, well, for this next question, like switching up just a little bit of the topic, for how is your work destigmatizing substance abuse in the Boulder community? And then if it does go statewide, how would that affect it as well?
Yeah, so this is really important, right? I mean, we are learning so much now about substance abuse, and that, for example, addiction is not really a disease that people are born with. I mean, it was progress in the 1940s that people called addiction a disease. And it was really the attempt to destigmatize it already then, because before, people were considered morally flawed and lazy and no goods. And so the attempt in the 1940s was really to help people destigmatize addiction by calling it a disease. The problem is we know so much more now. We know that it's not a disease that people are born with and that people have to live with for the rest of their lives. We know that it is an imbalanced brain that has a reason. And the reason is often unprocessed trauma or unprocessed overwhelm that then people were trying to balance by using substances, kind of like in an intelligent way. And when we teach classes for people in the justice system or for teens or really for anybody, we say that there is an intelligence behind every substance abuse, and then people are like, are you joking? Like, what do you mean? Like, there's an intelligence behind me doing meth or behind me doing fentanyl or by me drinking or whatever. And I'm like, absolutely. Do you know what it is? And people are like, no, I don't know what it is. I never thought of it as intelligent. And I'm like, well, did you know that you were trying to change something in your brain? And I can tell you what it is. You can learn exactly which neurotransmitter system you were trying to balance and to change. And once you know what it is, you can learn healthy ways to do it. So we have a class in Natural Highs called Your Favorite Neurotransmitter, where we help everybody figure that out. And then, just by people seeing the neuroscience, that in itself is so destigmatizing, because then people see it's not dumb, it's not my fault. There's profound reasons behind why people develop symptoms. And really, substance abuse and addiction, they're symptoms. They're symptoms of a situation of imbalance. And that's not people's fault. It's often what happened to people and situations that people couldn't process or couldn't get through. And so, yeah, it's very fortunate that we now know so much more. But unfortunately, a lot of programs are kind of still old school and not really up on the current cutting edge neuroscience. And that's what is our mission, to really bring this cutting edge information to everybody.
Yeah, I think data really speaks to people when they see data and proof and things like, what happened to you instead of what's wrong with you. Because that's in counseling, that was like a big thing of what's wrong with you instead of what's happened to you, because that's the real question everybody needs to ask.
Yeah. And, so many times when I show people the neuroscience, like including of mental health issues like anxiety or what people call PTSD, people are like, oh my God, you just explained my whole life to me. And I'm like, yeah, and there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing broken. Most people at this point who are having mental health issues like anxiety or depression or PTSD symptoms, you were not born with a chemical imbalance. You probably have gone through so overwhelming things that put you into the freeze response, that put you into a state of overwhelm and stuckness. And fortunately, we now have treatments how to get people out of this and not, have people cope with symptoms for the rest of their lives, but actually help people heal these symptoms, which I think every human being deserves, regardless of their financial abilities.
I agree. So that kind of leads me into this next question. How should other people that are trying to help young people approach young people struggling with substances already?
Every workshop we do, every class we do afterwards, we do an anonymous feedback form. And so from all of this feedback over the last over 20 years, we have learned a lot. And so one of the things is that the most helpful thing for people all ages, both young people and people all ages, is to learn the neuroscience. That is what we have learned from people struggling and suffering, is that the most powerful piece that we do in Natural Highs is to teach the neuroscience. People say the neuroscience has helped me want to quit substances, want to get out of my addictions, and it taught me how to do that. So I would recommend to anybody to just learn about that. And I just want to say that we are offering a lot of online free bilingual presentations where, I know it's scary to people, right? People are like, oh my God, I don't know where to find the neuroscience. I don't know how to learn it. Well, we're teaching it. And if anybody is interested, you can come onto our website, naturalhighs.org, and you can get our emails. And then you find out when we offer our free online trainings where you can learn how the neuroscience works and where you can also learn how to teach it to others, because we really want that everybody is equipped to pass it on, because we say everybody we meet, we say we want to train you as a peer mentor, and we work with lots of people who are court ordered to work with us, and they're like, I didn't sign up to be a peer mentor, and we're like, it's okay. Like, you can do it formally with us on the team, or you can just be a good human with your friends and family and, pass it on if somebody you encounter is struggling. So we know now that we need a lot of people who are knowledgeable on that. We also have developed a free training. It's called How to Turn Anxiety into Your Superpower, where we teach the neuroscience of anxiety and depression and teach people that it's not a mental health disorder that you're stuck with, but that it's a situation of freeze response that you can get out of. And this training is free online on our website and on YouTube because we want it to be available to everybody. And we want everybody to teach it to everybody they know. So, yes, don't be scared of neuroscience. It's just what we have learned that is the most empowering approach. And then the other piece we have learned is that it's really important to approach people without judgment and without shaming people. That has never helped anybody. It's really important to, offer a safe space and a space of non-judgment and compassion. And that is where people can actually think for themselves. The other thing we've learned a lot, both from young people and people all ages, is like people say, the good thing is you don't tell us not to do drugs. So that also has never worked for anybody, right? And we don't tell people what to do at all. We teach people the neuroscience and then we say, okay, so what do you think? What do you think would be best for yourself? And in more situations than not, people are like, oh my God, I had no idea how destructive this substance is. And I don't think I want to keep doing it, especially now that I know what I could do instead, what herbs, what activities that actually would make me feel good in a really healthy way. So we see that when people have better options, they usually choose better options. People are smart. And so that's our approach. And we've seen this work really well.
I love the natural ways of like dealing with health issues, mental health issues, any kind of like problematic thing. If you can find a more natural way to deal with it, I feel like it's just so much healthier and you may even live longer. Who knows?
Oh, yeah. And like, I grew up in Germany, and when we were sick, my grandmother would go to her cupboard and pull out chamomile tea and lemon balm tea. And I was 32 years old when I came to the US. I had never taken a pill for headache or anything, So that to us was normal. It was part of the culture that people knew about herbs and had their own medicines at home. And we want to teach that you do not always have to outsource this to professionals. We can empower ourselves again to learn about herbs, about things that are healthy, that we can help each other with. To us, it's a question of empowerment, and this is the tragedy of living in capitalism, where everything has been made about money. And then that, of course, shuts out a lot of people. And so we want to change that. We want to have that everybody builds their own apothecary at home for their family, for their friends. We are now working with a farm where we actually grow our own herbs because we want to teach teens, you can do that. You can grow your own herbs and you do not even need a garden. Every spring we do an activity in Natural Highs where people can grow their own anxiety herb garden in a pot. And people are shocked. They're like, really? Like, I can do that. I'm like, yes, you can. And the fact that this has been forgotten in the US American culture is just tragic. And we want to bring that back.
Yeah, thank you for all of that, like bringing, almost like some of your culture over here to share with us in a more healthier way. I think that's amazing. Can you also share what are some natural ways to cope with withdrawal and addiction like symptoms and sustain successful sobriety in case like some of our listeners are going through, some tough times?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think one of the things we would always say is don't do it alone, because this is really hard. Anybody, we all know moments like that when we were not in a good place, where our brain chemistry was out of balance because of trauma, because of loss, because of grief, because of substance use. And it's really hard to take this on alone because, our brain is the only brain we have. And everything we perceive is through the instrument of our brain. And so that's when we lose touch with ourselves. This is when we start doubting ourselves. This is where people lose hope. So we would always say, find a community. And we would love to be community for everybody. So, reach out to us on naturalhighs.org, become part of the community. Even if you're not in Boulder County, you can be in touch with us through our emails, through our online events. That's really important, right? Find community that is non-judgmental and find a recovery group in your community. So that would be my first recommendation, just so that people can mirror back to you that you are a worthwhile human being and that you deserve support. Because sometimes people forget that and can't see that anymore. So that would be my first recommendation. And then it's really very specific, right? Like we have learned that there's very specific herbs and activities and, like AcuDetox and all these different things that help people change patterns that can be hard to change if they include withdrawal and rebound effects and things like that. So we are working on a community herb book right now, and we're hoping that we get it done this year where, we want to teach people that there's a lot of herbs that help with withdrawal and with emotional issues. And that's not very known. There's not a lot of material out there. And so we want to help people get that. So sign up for our emails, and then when it gets published, we will let you know. But yeah, so there is lots of support. And if you have a local apothecary and herb store in your community, people who are trained as herbalists, they also can help with herbs for mental health or for withdrawal. So I just want to give an example, right? We work with somebody right now in our community who has gotten into a terrible addiction with Xanax, and it all prescribed by a doctor, but unfortunately was not prepared that this could lead to very serious addiction and very serious mental health problems. And so there's actually really helpful herbs to help somebody get off as sedative drugs like benzodiazepine, like Xanax, or even drugs like alcohol or cannabis. So we work with herbs like passion flower or California poppy or hops or catnip that are very, very calming and that actually can help people get through the withdrawal that can be so, so difficult to work with.
I believe like what helped me the most through like my own recovery story is just having a different support system set up for me, since like my family didn't know how to support me, didn't really want to do like the internal work with me of like trauma or even substances. So like just having the outside recovery, like group of people that were in the same position or have experienced like similar things really helped me to see that it wasn't just me. It wasn't just, a population in society that is labeled or anything. It can happen to everyone.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of groups, right? Or really finding a community because you can see in other people that people are beautiful. And, it took me years of looking into the faces of other people until I realized, okay, they are beautiful. Maybe I'm beautiful too. I mean, years and years and years, and that is okay. That I don't think we can do this alone for ourselves. I don't think we can mirror that back to us. I do think it really is helpful to be with others and receive support.
Yeah. Well, why do you think society hasn't realized natural medicines and herbs are very helpful and are the way to go instead of all the different types of medicines that are supposed to help people, but they probably in reality don't?
Well, we people are shocked when they find out that, they've never heard of the things that we're working with. And I ask people, I say, why do you think you've never heard about passion flower, but you know about Xanax? Or why do you think you've never heard about Damiana, but you certainly have heard about cannabis? And, people are like, well, I don't know. I think it's because nobody's advertising it to you. Because, you can't own and put a patent on an herb or on a form of acupuncture and, then make billions of dollars off of it. And this is why we need to take this back into our own hands. There will never be an industry marketing this to us for money because these things are not addictive. They're not going to make a lot of money. And so that is exactly it, right? Where we have to start questioning our society. We ask people, we say, why do you like think about how we celebrate the most important moments of our lives in the US? Birthdays and holidays. How do people celebrate? Well, actually, with substances that are not good for us, like alcohol and sugar. And here you are with the people you supposedly love the most, and you're like, here, have something that's not good for you. And it's like a blind spot, right? Like very few people are questioning this. And we do. And we bring this into high schools and middle schools. And we ask kids, and we say, why do you think that is? Because we want young people to start asking those questions. Like, why do we do this? Or why do so many people buy these substances that are really bad for us? People are shocked. At this point, an ounce of cannabis in Colorado costs about $100. People are shocked when they find out that the healthy herbs we work with cost between $3 and $5 per ounce. And people are like, what? Why is that? I say, why do you think that is? Right? So, yeah, we have to start paying attention. We have to start asking these questions and really find ways that are cool and empowering. And a lot of the plants that are the most medicinal are actually the ones we in our culture call weeds. And we kill them like dandelion, which would be probably one of the most profound medicines for everybody in the US because it's a very good liver tonic. It makes you more resilient, it makes you stronger. So it's actually the medicine for our times. And there is a form of herbalism in Germany where people say the earth grows the medicine we need the most right in front of us, right? So we would just have to notice and learn and pay attention.
Yeah, of course. I feel like everybody should learn about the nature and the natural surroundings and try to learn from that. I mean, of course, don't eat any weird plants you don't know that might be poisonous.
Yeah.
Don't go out into the forest and just take whatever and start
Yeah.
eating away or putting it in a tea. If you don't know, then don't do that. What are some other resources for our young listeners to reach out? I know you mentioned naturalhighs.org. Is there any like social media platforms they could join or podcast or any other things?
Yeah. So we invite everybody to be part of our community. So probably the first best stop is our website, naturalhighs.org with an S. And there you can sign up for our emails. And once you sign up for our emails, you get really all of our resources sent into your inbox. So you get our monthly free online trainings. we are doing really interesting ones. Like we do one on alcohol. We do healthy alternatives to sugar. We do one called Turn Anxiety into Your Superpower. Anybody who's interested in mental health and how to work with trauma and heal trauma, I really recommend this training called How to Turn Anxiety into Your Superpower. It's also on our homepage. So, our website is like this huge treasure box full of resources, full of podcasts and courses and things and lists. And I mean, you can knock yourself out, right? So I would say that's a good first stop. We also have a podcast. It's called This Badass Sober Life. And it's a community podcast where different people interview different people with interesting stories in the whole context of recovery and mental health and cutting edge neuroscience. So you can find our podcast on YouTube. It's called This Badass Sober Life. And yeah, but if you want to be like in the loop with, all the new things that we're developing, that we're doing, I would say sign up for our emails. We do have on and off social media. We feel conflicted about social media. We do initiatives where we inspire people to get off social media since it's so detrimental for mental health. But you can find us on Facebook. It's Natural Highs Community. But I really encourage you to get on our email list because that's how you are very close to us and that's how you get our best resources and not miss anything.
Okay. A lot of good information that you gave us and a lot of good resources you gave us. Thank you so much for coming on our Youth Empowerment Radio podcast and talking about the different ways and the natural ways to recover from substances.
I'm so happy to be here and I'm so inspired by your work. And, we think that young people are incredibly powerful, have incredibly powerful voices. We have seen that in our community where young people created change that grown-ups were not even able to create, like, for example, bringing Narcan into schools. So we love young people. We love supporting young people. And I just would say to everybody, don't don't despair, don't doubt yourself. There is reasons. If you are in a challenging place, there are reasons, and we understand those now, and we also understand how to get out of it. And so be part of our community. We would love to have everybody. We love supporting people because a lot of people right now who have the most serious symptoms are actually the people who are most sensitive, and really dialed in and tuned in, and people feel the insanity of the world. And so I would say, don't give up on yourself. Connect. Find your tribe. Find your like-minded people, so that you can turn your challenges into wisdom and into something that could really help other people.
Yes, words of wisdom. Thank you all for listening and tune in for our next episode. Thank you, Avani.
Thank you, Savannah.